I said, daily is an ongoing process that we are crossing duplicate hopper in our base. Any duplicate will pop up, we will process it and merge two records together.
And the other thing, as we mentioned here at the top of page 11, Elect was issued an advisory sometime ago, I think it was about 2 years ago, that voter registration offices are not permitted to use third-party data to clean your rolls, to make changes, because the state has policies, including for the duplicates. We have policies in place. That being said, we still review anything that's submitted to us. We take it very seriously. We appreciate the time people put into this. We've gotten other reports in the past asking us to look at individuals that are over 100 to determine if they're really alive. We go through that. We take all this very seriously, but we have not found anything that will cause us to change our policies or procedures. Thank you, Bushra. And the
Can I ask a question, Mr. Spicer?
Yes.
It says here, our office continues to learn that a significant number of these flagged records stem from paperwork and processing errors at the DMV. How do you learn that? Is that just informal, sometimes you find out? Or is there a systematic way to actually do that?
Thank you for that question, Jeff. Bushra can speak to it because she has experienced it, and in addition to her experience, which she'll tell you about, you've also gotten a lot of the anecdotal experience.
Yes.
People have told us this.
Actually today I received a phone call from a father of the voter that they received intent to cancel for citizenship with their driver license that she received in the mail too. So he was surprised. How come they received the driver license and when they show up at DMV to apply for real ID, they provided birth certificate, social security card, residency, approval of residency, but still is showing that she is non-citizen, and we send her the letter intent to cancel her registration because of non-citizen. So I explained the procedure for him that whenever you visit DMV for any other transaction besides registration, if you do not check that I am a US citizen, or you check no, Department of Election provide us with the list of those voters that was provided by DMV. So we are required by law to send affirmation of citizenship to the voter, and they must to respond to us within 14 days. If we do not receive the response within 14 days, the registration will be canceled. So they will, as I said, is a lot of work for the voter, confusing. Many times you see military, active military, they are saying why my registration has been canceled. Sometimes they are in submarine, they never receive the mail. So for those, all the example with the correspondence.
What did you experience at the DMV? Correct me if I'm wrong, that they said non-citizen, the box at the top of the form, it was under the clipboard, and I believe they tell you don't worry about that.
Yes, so for myself, when I went to DMV to apply for my real ID, and I have all my proof, my passport, all my residency, my social security card, so they give me the form to how to apply, to fill it out. So they give me the form has a clipboard, under the clipboard has a question, are you a citizen? So I, in purpose, asked the supervisor there, I said, what's about this question? She said, don't worry about it, it's not important, just fill out the others. This has happened to me in person. Yeah, so I fill it out, but I checked it because I'm familiar with what's happening after that action if I did not check it.
And I think it's clear what needs to happen is some improvement in the processes in the DMV, which of course we have no control over, but I believe Elect has said they're working on it.
They're supposed to be working on it. We sent them several situations and questions and things that we wanted them to bring up to the DMV. They said they have a hard time getting a meeting with the DMV in Richmond, the head of the DMV, and when they do, you know, they appreciate our input. So I haven't heard back from them if they were able to meet with them or not.
Let me see if I can sum up what we've just heard. And I had somebody report to me the same thing that happened to it in a DMV in Charlottesville several years ago. You don't need to worry about that citizenship form, that citizenship question. So we are getting, the state is getting information that people are not citizens, not because they checked they were not, but because they may have not checked anything. In other words, what has to happen is you have to positively say you are a citizen, or you're reported as not a citizen. So people that are missing the form are not a citizen as well. And that's not a new problem, by the way. I wish we could figure out I wish that there could be enough cooperation with DMV to be sure that that question, that their workers are trained to know, that question has implication for other things other than them having just seen the importance of the identification, that that's the report of their identification in elections.
And finally, the policy that we're adhering to, the board enacted last September, just to be clear, that is not a finding of guilt. We are referring individuals that were identified by elect, not identified by us. And we are in no way, we're not in a position to find guilt. We refer them to the Commonwealth's attorney and to the Attorney General, and it's in their hands to determine. And then item 3 from the board was a request to provide a list of public buildings used as polling places, including facilities in non-use, and so we've provided that to the electoral board for your review.
Before you go on, could I comment on that? It's a single sheet, sort of double-sided, of the public facilities that we use from the park in McLean, actually, that's Tyson's, to all the parks, to the animal shelters. VDOT, VDOT and GMU have buildings that we use that aren't county. This is a fairly extensive list of county facilities, and I want to thank Beth for putting it all together. But I would say that having looked at a number of these facilities, they're not usable. I think that there are probably people in this room who have served at the Providence Community Center room, the Providence Community Room. I won't mention any names, Andy, that says, that know that this room is way not, just barely useful in Tyson's. And we're having a lot of issues trying to find places to vote in Tyson's. But many of these are not useful, or even less useful than that room is, because of a number of things. But thank you, Beth, for putting that together.
And finally, some of you may have heard about the hole punch issue. We heard about it the first thing in the middle of the night last Tuesday evening, early Wednesday morning, when there was a warning posted on X about the hole punch, which has existed on our absentee ballot envelope since 2021. And that, of course, led to many other postings and comments and concerns. We took this very seriously. I want to point out first and most importantly, the Virginia Code, section 24.2704, requires all jurisdictions in Virginia to have some sort of either a hole punch, that's the first thing that they suggest in the code, or the first thing that they list. You can also have a sticker, there are a couple other things you can have, but as a tactile indicator that confirms for visually impaired and print-disabled voters which envelope they should use. And what we did, we posted a statement explaining our security measures, everything that we do to secure. We never look at a ballot associated with a voter. Very, very careful. And so we went through those details of the what we do. That was last Wednesday, the same immediately after. We have not gotten a complaint on this at all since 2021, but we took these very seriously, and we immediately investigated the issue. And as somebody noted, it's possible for the oval, for it to mark the mark where the voters made a selection for Attorney General to be seen through the envelope. But and that's only if you inserted it a certain way. If you did not, if you inserted it the way it was sent to you, that would not occur. And at most, you're seeing the mark. You're not seeing the mark associated with the candidate. But of course, there has been a lot of information posted. We try not to. We keep the ballot secret. And so we posted a second statement on Monday, providing additional information, making it clear to voters that they can vote a provisional ballot if they don't want to return their ballot, that they have other ways that they can vote. They can bring their ballot back and vote in person at a satellite. So we went through those, issued another statement. And so that's it for
Thank you, Mr.
May I follow up on
Yes,
that?
sure.
With respect to the second statement, thank you for issuing it. What was the dissemination? How was the second statement disseminated?
It was disseminated both on our website, very clear, very visible, and also through social media on X. And Sean, what was the other?
Yeah, so it's posted on the county channels we have available to us. Social media is X. And Blue Sky, it also, I believe, linked to the main government, county government channel on Facebook. It is on the homepage, landing page. You don't have to click anywhere to get to it. It's on the initial landing page.
Did we issue something that had a caption of press release?
I believe its caption is state. It does not say press release.
Did we release something directly to the press, such as WTOP or other media?
Media inquiries have been directed to that and the social media posts. Yeah.
I'm not sure what you just, so was that a yes or no? Did we send a copy of our press, did we issue a press release?
We did not issue a press release. We posted a statement.
Okay,
Correct.
so we haven't sent it to the Washington Post and asked them to please do it as a public service
We
announcement.
have not.
We haven't sent it to the Fairfax Times, we haven't sent it anywhere.
The folks have reached out to us, but we have not proactively disseminated it.
Okay. Can you?
Certainly check with OPA on that. Find out what we can post out. I can tell you that it is certainly in the media now. Folks, as I mentioned, that we have responded to, that have reached out.
Sure, posting on our website, I understand why it needs to be on our website, but most of the people that I know have never been to the county's election website. I'm not on Excerpt Blue Sky, so I wouldn't have known about this, but for the fact that Eric graciously called me at 7 in the morning on Wednesday, so I had a copy of it. But, well, also, the work over the weekend to prepare this. But, yes, please check with
We can do it.
OPM,
OPA, yeah.
Sure.
so that the public knows.
And there was an interview with NBC covered this, and they actually interviewed voters. Every one of the voters that they spoke with said they had no issue, which is not to say that it's not a concern. Obviously, it was a concern to other individuals. And finally, we say that we will definitely look at this in the future, as well as all of our procedures, to see if we need to do anything differently. We will definitely check. This time, it was like the perfect storm. It's the way the ballot is laid out, together with the whole, the legally required, we have to do something like a whole, so we're gonna be very cautious.
Well, and this builds into my ongoing theme of marking to market, right? Going back and looking at what it currently says, as jumbled or confusing as it might be, that this implicates we don't have two, I mean, the tax roll is needed if you have two envelopes. So you know which one is the envelope that the ballot goes into, and then which is the envelope that gets mailed back to the registrar. And we don't have two envelopes, and so there's actually, it's really hard to confuse which envelope to use. And, you know, it's the outer envelope gets this tactile, but we don't have that. So should we, does the code require us? Yes, I know elect may have signed off on it, but do we want to keep doing things that are, right? It's the level setting, like how well are we doing when you go back and scrape away all of our processes? When you look at the code, are we compliant? And right, and using one ballot instead, one envelope instead of two. Well, you know, the code talks about having the outer envelope and the inner envelope. Now we use this little flap, and you know, does a flap count as an envelope? And who gets to decide? I mean, it's just kind of like I'm like, the problem is when this happened, it wasn't kind of the first time that I felt like, oh, here's another thing that there's no double check. I appreciate the culture of the office is to comply with the rules, and there are a lot of rules, and we spend our lives. You spend your lives complying with those rules. What I worry about is there is still, nonetheless, there's skepticism. There are people in the community who don't see all the efforts that go in, and so having a red hat, like let's have let's get this absentee ballot for this election. Let's stick it in. Let's see if we can hack the election by the vote is visible. So it's that kind of a culture of, yes, we're really good, we try really hard to follow the rules, but having someone assigned to be deeply skeptical so they can catch this kind of thing before it occurs.
You've raised the issue that is one of my favorite issues, and I thought this ballot was particularly helpful because this is the first time in several elections that we have had a 2-column first-page ballot. And for those who are reading and have difficulty, and I know you get concerns and so do I, about sometimes how difficult it is to read a ballot that is a 3-column ballot, because it's narrow, 3 narrow columns, and in 4 languages. So none of the bubbles can possibly have ever shown on those, because this, we had the opportunity to be helpful to people reading the ballot, and the staff used a 2-column ballot, bigger print, bigger, no big equals in English.
Yeah.
But
This is a heck of an election for that to happen.
it sure is. Are you there, Mr. Shapiro? Yes.
I am here. I do have a question, comment. So the first thing, just, I guess, in this, in the report, the last sentence on this says, you will, prior to future elections, we will consider ballot contest layout as it relates to the absentee return ballot. I do think, and I guess I'm in agreement with Kevin, that you need to consider whether this ballot needs a hole punch, because it's not clear that it's legally required. I also have a practical question. So if you are visually impaired and you can't see, how do you fill out this ballot? Like, shouldn't there be a special Braille ballot for you? I mean, it's the only visual thing we're doing is this hole punch, or what am I missing?
There's a special program, Cheryl, would you like to explain?
Yeah, there's an online system we're required to use by the Department of Elections for voters who are visually impaired to mark their ballot online. They can listen to it and mark it through their computer and then print their ballot. And so, but we also send them a ballot in the mail, so they have an assistance form and a ballot should they decide not to use the online system, or they have the envelopes that they use to mail that ballot back. So now they've received an envelope in the mail, they've got the inner envelope, they have instructions, they have a ballot, and so, with the hole in the ballot, with the hole in the envelope, they know which envelope to use.
Do those voters receive 2 envelopes, an inner envelope and an outer envelope?
No, they receive the same thing that all other voters receive. We send them
We
a
did.
regular ballot package.
Okay.
And so they print their marked ballot on their computer, and then they take that and they can fold it up and put it into their correct ballot.
The information that would need to be filled out on the outside of the envelope that gets covered by the flap, do we
Yeah,
still
you know
expect
what
those
we
voters
do?
to
We
get that
send-
information?
We send them, if we still send them an affirmation, yeah. We send them an affirmation page that they can complete on their computer. And it's the statement of voter, and they can type in their name and the address, and we tell them to print that, and their last four, their social, etc. And then we tell them to print that and just sign it anywhere on the form. And then they send that back to us with their ballot. And that way they don't have to fill out the outside. Now, they can, if they want, work with an assistant, and the assistant can fill out that portion of it and fill out the assistance form. But we have several blind voters that we talk to regularly on the phone, and they are adamant that they want to be able to do this themselves and vote totally privately and get that ballot back to us. And they call and check and make sure we're doing it okay. So that's how we get past the statement on the back, because they're signing the statement of voter. And they have all the information. Yeah.
So there's only one envelope though.
Right, one return.
Do they actually,
Right.
I mean, do they actually make use of this hole in their process, the voter?
I don't know.
Well, I
Yes,
mean,
the law says we have to have a hole in the
I don't know that it does.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking. I'm hearing, I haven't looked at it.
We can ask elect and see what they say.
So the language of the code refers to an outer envelope, and that's the issue, because we don't have an outer and inner envelope system. The general register shall cause the outer envelope containing the ballot return envelope and accessible instructions to have a tactile marking that identifies the outer envelope as the outer envelope to the voter. For purpose of this section, tactile marking includes a hole punch, a corner, or a tactile sticker. And that code section dovetails with the code section 2 sections later that describes the absentee. After the voter has marked his absentee ballot, he shall A, enclose the ballot in the envelope provided for that purpose, B, seal the envelope, C, fill in and sign the statement printed on the back of the envelope, D, enclose the ballot envelope and any required assistance form within the envelope directed to the general registrar. So the code is written, hard-coded to use 2 envelopes. And when you, and so the hard coding of the outer envelope needing the tactile marker is to distinguish between those 2 envelopes. Because we don't use 2 envelopes, the intent of the tactile is vitiated. I mean, you're not gonna confuse which envelope. The code still says have a tactile reminder on the outer envelope, so if we're gonna follow the code, our outer envelope ought to have a tactile reminder, but then we ought not to have a tactile reminder that exposes a vote to the public. It's just kind of a fail when it comes to a secret ballot.
Here's another question. Do you, in your instructions to the impaired voter, do you say anything about this hole punch?
Did you say anything?
No.
I don't remember. I don't think we do. No.
They get the same
Okay,
message.
that proves that it's not useful, okay? So first of all, it seems like you could move it. You could do a cut corner instead of a hole punch, or a tactile sticker, which would be a raised thing. And I don't know if there's some reason why all envelopes have to have this, or just, since you're dealing with a small set of people, you could have custom envelopes. But putting that aside, clearly we're not using the hole punch for any purpose, because we're not telling them to do anything with it. So I would say just, I think my bottom line is, I think we should fix the problem going forward. It's not gonna be that, there's gonna be some solution to this. And it may include changing the ballot layout, but it may include just changing the envelope. And I think we should consider both and do, whatever's most efficient, and whatever makes sense to prevent this from happening again.
Anything else? Okay, let's go on to electoral board reports, and we'll start with you, Mr. Franklin.
I have nothing to report. I've already addressed.
You've
a matter
already
that-
addressed
yeah,
it.